Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen to the everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell. The doctor saving lives at your local hospital, the war veteran down the street who risked his lives for our freedom, the police officers and firefighters who risk their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling, but there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored. The entrepreneur, the creator, the producer, the ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what, I can fix that, I can help people, and I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world, others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks of the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back to The Hero Show. I'm Richard Matthews, and I'm here on the line with Tony Silver. Tony, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. Coming all the way from, you said Windsor in Britain, right?
Yep, the Queen is my next door neighbour.
That's a big house to be next to.
Yeah.
Can you actually see it from your...
Yeah,
Can you see the
pretty
castle?
much. Yeah, it's a big castle, yeah.
That's super cool. I can't wait to go visit Britain at some point. I would like to see...
You've got to come over. Lots and lots of culture.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of our history is over there. So, Tony is, let's see, just to introduce you real quick before we get into this. You have been involved in LinkedIn for over a decade, and over the last couple of years, you've grown a business and become one of the top LinkedIn profilers in the world. We're going to talk about what that means. You also do some mastermind work and public speaking and whatnot. So the way we start off every show is talking about what you're known for now, right? So what do people come to you, Tony, for now to get help with?
It is mainly the fact that people on LinkedIn are not using it properly, and I just tell them I'm a profiler, and they just sort of, oh no, my profile's awful, I need help. I find people through networking. I do an awful lot of networking, and a lot of people obviously find me on LinkedIn as well. And I think it's the profiling that catches their attention. I want to find out what exactly it is.
Yeah, so you're helping individuals like get their profile better, or small businesses improve their profiles to either drive leads or drive like job applicants or something like that.
Yeah, I work with a range. People often ask me, do you have a sweet spot, or do you have a certain industry you work with? And the answer is no. My youngest client is 18, and I was working with her on the HR side of it. So I'm happy to say that I heard yesterday that working with her has got her a job with the Metropolitan Police over here. So I'm really happy for her on that front. And at the other end of the scale, I've got some larger companies where I work with the partners and the teams. But I should suggest the majority of them are micro businesses in the UK, which is classified as anyone up to about 5 staff. And that's the backbone of this country, really.
Yeah. It's backbone of America too, is small businesses. Something like 60 million of them. So yeah, it's a great group of people to be helping. So next part is basically talking a little bit about your origin story, right? Every hero has one. It's where you started to realize that you were different, that maybe you had superpowers, and that maybe you could use them to help people. So where you just started to discover or develop the value you could bring to this world. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into this business of LinkedIn profiling, as you call it?
Yeah, certainly. Go back to the year 2008, and I was made redundant at the age of 48. And in this country, there is no ageism, but unfortunately, yes, there is. So I had no idea what I needed to do to find a job. I found what they call over here an executive job club, which is a charity-based institution which helps out-of-work executives. And they could put you through a 15-week course. And fairly early on, the 2 outstanding items were you need to network and you need to be able to use LinkedIn. And realistically, that was a big turning point in my my job finding is that all of a sudden I knew that I had to use those two to move myself forwards. Networking is intrinsically linked to LinkedIn, and anyone I meet at networking events, I immediately take them onto LinkedIn and put the relationship there. But my use of LinkedIn was pretty much the same as most other people's. It was an HR tool. My CV was on there, wasn't that active. And then I met a gentleman, a LinkedIn trainer, who came along to the Chamber of Commerce and did a session which just blew me away. And I went up to him afterwards and said, look, will you please help me look at my profile and see where I'm going wrong? And he took a lot of time out over the next 6 weeks to teach me how to use it, where to use it, etc., etc. So he installed my superpowers for me, because it elevated me above everyone in the area as to how to use it and what to use it for. So that helped me find a job. The job was within the Chamber of Commerce, and it's the Thames Valley over here, which is probably the 4th biggest chamber in the UK, covering a very large, well, not by American standards, but a very large area by UK standards. And I was continually using LinkedIn to help people, but I was working for someone else at the time.
And then how did you transition into doing this as your own business?
Yeah, the transition took place probably 2 years ago. I went and saw who is now one of my mentors, and had coffee with him down in Swindon in the UK. And he took one look at me and said, "Gosh, you look awful." And I said, "Well, I'm just so unhappy with what I'm doing. You know, it's just killing me." He said, "Well, you need to get out, but you need to do it strategically." And he set me on my path. He told me to write a book initially to get all my ideas down of how I've gone from where I was to where I'm going to be. And then said, you know, work a plan where you can actually get away and set up your own company. So it was based upon what he told me. I wrote the book. I then really thought about how I was going to construct a company. What did I need to do? The Chamber of Commerce moved me from department to department, but never actually used my main skill, which is networking and being out there in front of people. So I thought, I've got to go. But I need a part-time job to make sure the transition works. I had a certain amount of money to put to one side, and I find a lot of people in business just sort of jump into business, have no idea what they're doing. They're really good at something, but it's not usually running a business. They have no business plan, no backup at all. From day one, I had my web designer, my marketeer, my 2 mentors in place, my tax person, everyone on the payroll from day one. So I could get on and do this sort of stuff, you know, the stuff I enjoy, talking to people and spreading the magic.
Awesome. So like what I heard a couple of things in this story that I think are really important. One is that anytime you've come into a situation, you immediately brought a mentor in and then took action on what they told you to do, right? Which is such a huge thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss, is that how important mentors are and how important it is to take quick action when you want to make a change.
Yeah, it really was. And I kind of knew this would be helpful. So the chap who set me off on my journey is a chap called Warren Cass. He is an international speaker. He has many businesses over here, and we've become firm friends. The other mentor, we have over there, The Apprentice. You know, I'm sure you've got an American version of The Apprentice over there. Well, another one of my friends was on The Apprentice, and although he didn't win it, he still holds the record for the biggest sale ever made and the best marketing strategy. And I knew him before he was famous, and I hooked up with him, and he helped me construct the early part of what I did. But yes, I knew those people would be inspirational. They would know what to do and how to do it, and keep me on track, because I'm a little bit impatient at the best of times, so that they sort of rein me in and said, "Oh, slow down." But yeah, I knew that talking to people, both of them are millionaires. They got there through hard work. They didn't just come to them. They were good people to be talking to.
Yeah, and that sort of helped you make that transition. And I like how when you talk about transitioning from employee to business, you actually, like, you put all your ducks in a row and you didn't just You know, a lot of us, and I know I have this, right? We jump in with 2 feet and hope that we survive, right? And you learn from your mistakes as you go. But you had a lot of the things in place that people learn they need in place after the fact. So
Yeah.
curious, like how did you know that ahead of time, right? Because as an employee, you don't always know that you need to have those things in place.
I had run a company previously, although I never set it up. And so I was always, although that company failed, I always knew about business and what you had to do. And I've always had the what I call the open door figure in my head. I knew what I had to earn every month to open the door. It was a manufacturing plant. And because I'd known these people while I was at the Chamber of Commerce, and they became friends of mine, I was getting good information from a few years out, and everything I've been told, you know, I take it on board. I see how it fits in. You know, one of the key things I was told by another person was, you know, I really needed to niche down what my offering was. And when you sort of start out in business, you think, well, surely not. Surely I want to be offering lots of things to different people. But when it was explained to me why that didn't work, it resonated with me, and I thought, yeah, you become a generalist, not a specialist. So you're no longer a superhero. You're just, you know, a man in the street. And that made me very much determined that the profiling was going to make me stand out from other people. So again, that was always part of the plan, is to niche it.
Now you get to say you're one of the top LinkedIn profilers in the world.
Yeah, if you put a search in, certainly within my 2,500 connections, they put a search in, I come up with number one. But I know that's not always going to happen. But yeah, I know how that's the magic. See, I can also I know how the algorithm works, so I knew how to do it, and I've done it for a couple of other people, and they've become number one in the world for their chosen subjects. I've stopped doing it because it's worth a lot of money, and I'm not charging the money for it. So at the moment in time, I don't offer that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's definitely a superhero worthy title. So I'm going to transition a little bit and talk about your superpowers. And it's like what you actually do or build or offer this world that helps solves problems for people, right? It's the things you actually do to help save slay your clients' villains, so to speak. So what would you say your superpower is in LinkedIn? If you could, you know, you said it's profiling, but describe that a little bit for us.
Okay. Phone's going mad here. It's not for me. The profiling side, really, there's a lot of trainers over here. There's a lot of people that will go up on stage and speak about it. They run workshops. And it's a bit like, you know, they come in, they do it, they take the money, they leave. For me, I wanted to be more involved with my clients, etc. So by doing a profile, what I do is, the great thing about it is that I can do it from anywhere in the world. I haven't got to be anywhere in particular, and nor is the clients. I will look at their profile. As long as I've got an internet connection, I can get onto it. I look at it, and I then go into and look at 9 particular areas that I know how it needs to be constructed. And I then look at those 9 areas, and I tell them pretty much black and white what is and what isn't good, what they should and shouldn't be doing. And the whole point of what I do is I move them from having a so-so profile through to having one that is, you know, you never get the perfect profile. It's impossible. It just doesn't happen. But you get them pretty close. So I do it all through doing a 12-page audit for these people. I go through the profile, look at the areas. I then do this document. Gives them to-do lists, it gives them action plans, it gives them loads of different things to do. And also I do an implementation with them, and that seemed to be the big change for me, is that a lot of people I did the report for last year, I got some great testimonials, great recommendations, but they weren't implementing it. When I sit down and implement it with them, that's when the magic happens. And you know, that's when I get the really good recommendations and testimonials and reports back of some really instant results on these things.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's interesting. You have a 12-page report on LinkedIn. I would doubt there's many people that have even 12 pages worth of material on their profile.
I will admit, and I always tell all the clients, that some of it is templated because some of the facts and figures does not change regardless of who you are. But the core of it is all about them and how they can move from being on it. There's kind of, I look at LinkedIn in three different ways. Two of them based around the search side, and then one of them based upon the profile side.
Yeah, and I totally get that, right? We do website development for clients, and we use the exact same homepage template and about page template and blog templates for every client. We just put in, their style and their personality on top of those things and their story, because the skeleton of what makes a great website doesn't change, or
No.
in our space, which is expert brands, but the content's going to change a little bit to make it theirs. And it sounds like the same kind of thing with your LinkedIn profile. Is you have to have this great skeleton in place before you come in and put your personality on top of it.
There's a lot of synergy between websites and LinkedIn profiles, and it's the thing that a lot of people get wrong on both fronts. And the thing is, the current marketing term in this country, I'm sure it's over there, what's in it for me? It's the current buzzword and term over here. And so many people's websites go I, we, and me and extol all their virtues. When the person looking at them doesn't really doesn't really want to know about that. What can you do for me? Yeah, so you're this, you're that, so what? And it's exactly the same as a LinkedIn profile. Part of what I do is I look at the bit you see when you first open a profile up, regardless of which device you're using. If you're using laptop, if you're using phones, if you're using Apple, you see four main areas, and one of them is what used to be your job title. Well, those people that still have their job titles on there, they're losing out massively, because I don't care if you're the CEO of this company, what can you do for me? And it's the same as a website. I see so many websites that are all about what, me, when it should be about you. And I say to people, if I got a pound every time I saw the words I, we, or me in people's profiles at the start, probably wouldn't have to do much else for a living.
Yeah, one of the things that we do with our clients when we help them build a website is the first thing we do is show them, above the fold on your homepage, you should have your unique selling proposition, and it should be front and center, and then it should be on everything that you do, right? Because that's about what you do for some other people. And calls that out. So, and it immediately, aside from people actually caring about it, it helps your market self-select, right? So when your website says at the top of it, we're helping real estate agents grow their leads, right? Immediately, whether or not they're a real estate agent, whether or not they need help growing their leads, they can self-select, and you can get a really fast no, which makes your marketing more effective.
Yeah. And as I say, the thing on LinkedIn is I always look for, and when I work with clients, I want them to come up with their own keyword for what would you put in as a search into LinkedIn to find yourself? And that then becomes a very key part of the whole of the website, the LinkedIn profiling. And it's often that makes a big difference. Because if you go into LinkedIn and you put accountant in as a search, it's something like 6 million people come up as the answer. Well, you're one of 6 million people. The chances of you being the right person are very, very slim. So I tell people to really think about, what people will be looked for when they're looking for, what you do. And so, yes, it's very much that keyword then runs throughout the profile, and it's what LinkedIn picks up on the algorithm. But it's the same, same as you say, they need to know what their proposition is, and the person looking at it. And the bit that frightens a lot of people, but it's true, and it's probably very similar to yourself, that bit above the fold, the bit that the people see, you've got 8 seconds in a digital world in this country. And if you're not grabbing their attention, you've lost them, they're gone. That's quite frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing, except in the US, on the web page side, 2 or 3 seconds of that time is going to go to your page load time. So you have even less. So other side of your superpower is your fatal flaw, right? Superman has his kryptonite. Batman's not actually a superhero. He's just, really dedicated to his thing. If you could look at your business and say there's a flaw that's been either holding you back or kept you from getting where you want to go with your business, what would you say it is? And more importantly, what have you been doing to combat that so people who might suffer from something similar could do something about it? I like to tell people, I used to suffer from like massive perfectionism where I would spend hours and hours trying to get like one little pixel in the right spot and realize it had nothing to do with, revenue production stuff. And had to build a team to actually get myself over some of those things. But, what would you say some of something that you've been dealing with in that space is?
Yeah, I kind of have some synergy there. Perfectionism sometimes holds me back, and I've learned to let that go. I am aware that there is a big issue within my company. Of course, the big thing is identifying and acknowledging it, which I did, and that it's very much Tony K. Silver. It's me, the delivery. Yes, I can do it from anywhere in the world, but I realise that without me being in the business, there isn't a business. So I'm looking at other things that are making my company more sustainable. So I'm looking at certainly podcasts. At the moment in time, I'm sort of going on to other people's, but I will eventually probably look for doing one myself. I've got to get involved in webinars. Again, I've done some with other people. I'm currently working on an online course, which again needs to be done within about 4 weeks. So I need to have things that can be selling for me when I'm not around. So I know the weakness. My weakness is me, which it's probably like a lot of people in the consultancy world. I'm a practitioner. The business is me, and I just need to make sure that actually it can continue if I'm not around.
Yeah, and so LinkedIn's a great space to be building the courses in. We build a lot of courses for clients, and the LinkedIn space is big. I've seen clients that do $200K a month in LinkedIn course selling. So I mean, it's a great space to be in, especially if you're going to be developing courses. And then it allows you to, getting marketing messages out on podcasts and webinars and having digital products allows you to bring a team around you and actually have a business that grows whether or not you're there. So.
Yeah, no, it is having, and I've already, again, being always sort of one step ahead, I've already approached 2 people and got them sort of prepped that if I need some sort of administrative support doing some of the backroom work, so I get busier, they're able to do it. So I'm already getting those people in place because doing the reports and all that does take a certain amount of time, and if I'm best used being out there actually doing the in front of the people stuff, then I need a team behind me. So again, I'm aware of that. I don't want to employ people. I'll bring them in on a consultancy basis, but I'm looking at other avenues, and the main one is actually I'm looking at speaking, and that's something that is very serious for me in this year.
Yeah, and speaking can be quite lucrative if you have a topic that people are interested in, which LinkedIn is going to only become more important. So I think you're well situated for the future of your business here, which is cool. So next thing is the common enemy, right? So common enemies, every superhero has the thing they're fighting against, right? And if you could think about it like this, if you could, when you bring on a new client, if you could just remove one thing from their life that would immediately change the results they're getting, if it's a mindset or a problem or something that they have that you see consistently, what would that thing be?
It's consistency, actually. You use the word there, because if I work with them to set up their profile to the point where the number of views, which is my metric a week, is in the 200 or 300s, so you're getting 50, 60 people a day finding you in searches, which is what generates the business. But to do that, you need to be consistently doing the activity. Now, that is where I find there's a big weakness with most of my clients, is that they work with me initially, we get it up there, they're getting their views, I've just done work with the person that runs the mastermind group, Warren Cass, and within 3 days, he had a 500% uptake on the number of times he was found in searches, and got offered a job the day after, a speaking gig. It can work really, really quickly. Like myself, when I was busy working with him and a few others, I wasn't that active. My results dropped off. So it is the big problem for companies is once they get there, is losing their edge by not being consistent. And I keep saying to them, well, this is an ideal time that if they're in a slightly larger company, you need to make sure that, you know, your marketing department are consistently putting stuff out there. Or if they are a sort of one-man band, then buy some time off a VA, you know, someone that's good at doing that.
What kind of activities are the things that people are doing on LinkedIn on a regular basis to keep their things up? I've never really looked at LinkedIn as an activity place.
Yeah, but you're not the only person. The three areas that the one is quite weak at the moment, and I'll explain why in a second. But the other two are all around the posts and the articles that you can write in LinkedIn. This is what you see coming through your feed on a daily basis. Now, the posts, you need to have interaction with posts on a daily basis. Now, that doesn't mean you need to write a post every day. What it does mean is you need to go into LinkedIn and, you know, like, comment, and share on congruent stuff. Don't just like anything that comes through your profile, because it just doesn't make sense. So you need to be on there having a look. And then the article side, which is the LinkedIn's version of a blog. So often when I do presentations, I say, you know, who in the audience has a blog, but hands it up, right? If you're doing a blog, pretty much you can then repurpose that as an article on LinkedIn. And actually, you probably only need to do it once, maybe twice a month. You're looking at probably 300 to 500 words. We're not looking for a big diatribe because people's attention spans are just not there anymore. And you've got to mix it up with images as well, because big blocks of text, again, don't get read. And it's those activities, just getting, I say to them, if you put it on the 10th of the month, do it on the 10th of the month every month. Just get people consistently expecting it. You know, you get your fans, your tribe expecting, oh, right, Tony always does an article around about the 10th of the month. I'll keep an eye open for it. Because obviously things coming through on your feed, you don't pick up absolutely everything. It's impossible. And certainly if you've got loads of connections, you're never going to see everything that everyone's doing. But it is that sort of, I'm too busy to do it. Well, yeah, if you're too busy to do it, you'll find that all of a sudden your views drop, you get less people inquiring. So you really need to think about how you're going to do it. If it takes half a day, half an hour a week, I say to them, go and find yourself one of these sharing things like Hootsuite and Buffer that we use over here. Schedule your stuff. Sit down there for half an hour and schedule so you're getting something going out on a regular basis. Because, you know, I have a little strapline that I use, which is be seen, be engaged, or be anonymous. Now, the anonymous bit is very easy to become, because if you're not active, that's what happens. They forget about you. That's what I say to people. So the weakness for most of my customers is once they got there, they love the results they're getting, but they don't sort of always get that you've got to be consistently doing it. It's the same with your websites for you. I'm sure you tell people, you know, doing a website and just leaving it for 3 months is a waste of time, because you need to constantly be having fresh
driving traffic and ads and such.
Yeah. So by doing the articles, you're driving people to your profile all the time. Stop doing them, then you don't pick it up.
So just from a marketing standpoint, your profile is like where people are going to convert from like a viewer into a, you know, in marketing terms, a lead, so to speak, or a job prospect, and your articles are what are going to drive the traffic.
Yeah. So the articles drive the traffic to the people. You get seen more, or you get found in searches more, and views. People come onto your profile and they say that you've got. And I give this away. This is my free gift. This is the bit I give away to most people I talk to, and presentations and all that. There's 4 elements on that first bit. You have a large banner which goes across the top of your LinkedIn profile. You've got a headshot, then you've got your headline, and you've got the first 3 lines of your LinkedIn profile summary, which they've just changed to call it about. But unfortunately, Microsoft do keep mucking about with it, and don't always make it better. So we're very visual. And web designers you'll certainly know that. So when they look at it, 33% of it is the image across the top, the banner. So the first big no-no is to have the standard LinkedIn banner with the blue and white. That just reeks of laziness, and therefore I don't want to be talking to this person. But other people then get very, certainly the creatives, they put up an arty image up there, and because I know the person, I kind of get what it means. But what about the other 610 million registered users? Are they going to know what it means? I doubt it. So that image needs to tell people, it needs to be affirmational, that when they land on that profile from either a search or being told about you, and they're looking for a LinkedIn profiler, mine says LinkedIn profiler. It tells them they're on the right page. Yeah. Very clear. Then they look at my profile picture, and it's very clear. It has been done recently, so it's current. It is a typical headshot, so it's head and shoulders. Doesn't have to be in a suit, against a nice plain background. So many people don't fulfill that. And if you have the professional headshot, although you might say, following the herd, you get 14 times more engagement. So I'm happily follow the herd rather than be a slight maverick, because it doesn't work. So that's if you've got those two areas wrong, and most people are visual, you're probably losing them already. If you say that 2 or 3 seconds, that's gone, and they think, I can't be bothered to work out what this guy's doing. And then if he's a CEO or something, and the first 3 lines are I, we, and all that, then you've lost them completely, and they will not do the see more button. Or
I think I fail. I fail
hey,
all the things so far.
Failed.
I do have a nice profile picture, but my first 3 lines definitely say I in it like 3 times. So
Radio, which would be my next talk after this.
Got some work to do. So let put some context on it for people, right? I know there's a lot of different ways that people use LinkedIn. I run a podcast like this one, and we, like my blog, for instance, regularly puts out our podcast content, which is, the video or the audio that goes along with the podcast, the show notes, which is about 300 to 500 words, talking about the topic that we're talking about. And we have like the transcription and other things. Can any of that content be repurposed and used as marketing on LinkedIn? Because that's not even a channel we're considering right now as a thing. Is that the kind of stuff that would be helpful for someone like myself who's a podcast host on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. So the one thing that really works very well on LinkedIn is media links. Now, you have got to do them within the actual framework of LinkedIn, because they don't want you leaving their platform and going somewhere else. So if someone cuts and pastes the URL into the body of text, it takes them away from LinkedIn onto the other person's website. When they finish that page, it doesn't go back to LinkedIn. So when you do that sort of thing within a post in an article, they've got a way of coding it that if you push the button, it will go and look at the video, or it go and listen to the podcast or whatever. And when you finished it, it will come back into the LinkedIn platform. And that they like, and that they will index you highly for. The higher that you're indexed, the more easy you're found, that you come further up the search rankings, etc., etc. So I tell people, get some media, and there's 2 real main places for that. So I keep saying profile summary. I won't get used to this about, because it's just a backward step. You have the ability within your about section at the bottom that a lot of people don't even look at, that you can upload or you can link into your profile. So you can go, if you've got typical thing for most people, if they do some hints and tip sheets, or you've got some bios, upload them, put the link in there. If you've got a URL that you want to do, it can be, it can go onto YouTube, and it can be a video, or it can be a podcast. It can be absolutely anything, as long as it's a URL, and it will then come up under your profile. People have the chance to click onto it and have a look at it. The other area you can do that in is in the actual experience section, where you put in what you're currently doing, your current job. Again, it gives you the ability to put in media in there. So there's 2 ideal opportunities to share. If you do put it in the body of text, not saying that people won't, but LinkedIn don't score it as highly because people will click on it and go away. So I tell people, put it in the bottom and just put it in the body of text, see below, and get people to click on the below links, and then that keeps LinkedIn happy, keeps your indexing up. So massively, that media stands above everything else.
Can you upload media directly to LinkedIn? Can you just take like a video file and upload it directly into like your feed of things?
They don't like you doing it, so that they want you to do it within the construction of a post, which is straightforward. I mean, a post it only needs to be a few lines, and you can then upload a video by clicking a button, and then entering the URL there. You have to do it through their system because that gives you the indexing and stops you going away, the viewer going away onto another platform. But yeah, if you look at the posts, when you do a post, there is a little camera at the bottom. Click on that, and you can then upload video into there. So yeah. If you've got podcasts and videos, that's a great way for you to be promoting them. Yeah.
Yeah. So the context there again is that common enemy is people are not being consistent on LinkedIn, and one of the things that you should consistently do after your profile is set up and working well is interacting on LinkedIn, which is posting and regularly getting content out to the network.
Yeah, as I say, as I said before, there's lots of synergies between your world and mine because it's the same on websites. You need to have consistently good content going out there, fresh content, and it's not that hard to do. And the one thing, I work with marketing people. I'm not a marketeer myself, and what they tell me and I tell my clients is sort yourself out a vault. And I get, what's that? Well, any content that you put out there, save it in the vaults because you can reuse that 3 months later and people will not remember that you did it 3 months ago. So you haven't got to find new content continually because when you tell people, oh, you've got to do an article or 2 articles every month, you need to post every day. Oh, no. You probably can get away with X amount and you just recycle them. And also,
one of the things we do on social media is we'll take like Instagram, for instance. You can take 180 posts, which are like 2 or 3 times a day for a couple months, and just recycle those over and ad nauseum, because nobody's going to remember them all. And they're like, those are just small little squares. It's not like full content pieces, but you just take a little vault of content that you can have created for you, and then recycle them on your schedulers.
Oh, I must admit I do. I also recycle my blogs, but there's a method in doing that, and the one that I find that works. If you do a blog, is to wait about a week before you recycle it onto LinkedIn. But that's always the best way to do the blog on your website first, then LinkedIn afterwards. But you need to do 2 key changes. You need to change one of the images. So there's a header image on the framework which you put your article together. It's all nicely templated. I tend to change that. And I quite often will then change the headline. And my headlines tend to be questions. So most of my blogs are asking. I like to get people thinking all the time. Change those 2 and LinkedIn thinks it's fresh content. The fact that the body of text and all the pictures below are exactly the same as there doesn't matter. They've noticed some changes, therefore it is not, it's a computer at the end of the day. It's not that clever. But you do need to make a couple of changes or they will not rank it as highly because you've cut and pasted it.
Absolutely. So other side of common enemy is the driving force. It's the thing that you fight for, right? So just like Spider-Man fights to save New York, or Batman fights to save Gotham, or Google fights to categorize all the world's information. You have a mission. We want to know what it is.
Yeah, totally. My mission is just to make everyone aware of the importance of it and how easy it is to actually do it. And it's not a big mystery. It's pretty much logical what I teach people, but my mission is to get as many people. And I suppose if you want to really, really drill down, I want to get into as many startups as possible, or even pre-startup, but even better, just tell them what they need to do from the start. I spent 6 months when I was out of work using LinkedIn and networking, and in reflection of it, I was doing it terribly. I know what I did wrong now. I can teach people what not to do and just cut that sort of lead time of being effective down. My mission is to try and get to, and there's quite a few startups in this country on a regular basis. There's very much a constant wave of people coming out of the corporate world. They've either come out of there with some money they've saved, or they've been made redundant and they got a package or something like that. They come out and they're really good at something. Running a business is nowhere near the top of that list, unfortunately. So they decide they're going to set themselves up in business, not do anything that I did, just go out there and I'm really good at, I'm a graphic designer. Brilliant, fantastic. Probably great at it, but you're now running a business and there are other facets to those businesses. And that's where a lot of them fail, is because they try to have a go at doing their own accounts. That doesn't work. So it's like they need to take on board what I did. I'm not very good at this, but I know people that are. And if you get to them early enough before they start making all the mistakes that may cost them money, I suppose that would be what I would really say is the main thing.
People who are getting into this self-employed world, and learning how to be an entrepreneur and being able to like come at the forefront of that and really help them take that journey the right way. Because, you know, they say statistically, like most businesses fail in the first year. And if you could change that equation a bit by helping them like really nail LinkedIn and some of that thinking at the beginning of how to build your profile and how to market yourself and actually create leads in business that way, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and we go one step further. We do a lot of networking over here, and a lot of us have done the same route of coming out of corporate and going out on our own. And I don't just go out talking to people about LinkedIn. If I see that they also have a need for someone else, within my network, I pretty much can fulfill all their needs. So if they're struggling on the account side, I've got accountants. If they've not got much money, I can get a bookkeeper to do a couple of hours a month for them. I've got web designers. I've got all those people that can come in and give them a bit of helping hand. So I don't just go out there blindly going LinkedIn. I know that they're going to struggle on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's almost a given that they're not going to be good on LinkedIn, because the statistics actually say in this country that 97% of people aren't using it properly. But I never quote that because it scares people. I say 80%, but even so, I use the Pareto effect. Wouldn't you rather be in the 20% that are effective and working with me? But it's also a combination of working with me and making sure those other people can come in and help you as well. And certainly if you've done that, and I had a great meeting once with a gentleman, I think he came from Motorola. I met him in a very nice English pub out in the countryside. It was sunny, it was a glorious afternoon, and he said that he needed some help. I said, well, what made you think that you needed some help? He said, well, I'm really good at what I do. He said, I've been set up the company and it was all going fine. He said, and I picked up the phone to ring the marketing department and realised that I was the marketing department. At that page, he said, help, I need help. I can't do the things that I don't know about. And that one, I always tell that story because I got him involved in the Chamber of Commerce and we got him sorted out. But he identified that, it was me. I was the bookkeeper. I was the marketing person. And I don't know how to do them. That's kind of, if you can stop people taking, going out on their own without really any backing of anybody, you can't. You need, even though you're on your own, you need a team around you. We've decided, and we're always out there trying to help people.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your hero's tool belt, right? Maybe you got a big magical hammer like Thor, or a bulletproof vest like your neighborhood police officer, or maybe you just really love the way that Evernote helps you organize thoughts, or how you can build killer slides in Keynote or Google Slides, something like that. Do you have any tools that you use on a regular basis that help you either do what you do for your clients, or things that you recommend your clients use on a regular basis to, either effectively use LinkedIn or some of these things that you've been talking about today?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. It is still going back to what we just spoke about. It's the activity. But I also say to them, there are other ways. I'm looking at doing public speaking on a regular basis, and that is a way forward for a lot of people. You can stand up in front of people, even if you only do it at sort of the networking level. You've got a room of 40 people in the room, and you're getting 10 minutes to tell them what you can do. And I just think it's a golden opportunity. It is scary when you first do it. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, going up on stage in front of 100 business people and speak, I'd have found any excuse under the sun not to do it. Nowadays, you just can't get me off the stage. I love it, and I've learned to really, really, and I do talk about LinkedIn, and that really is, it's a great sales tool as well, because I've gone up there and I've proved to them even in 10 minutes that I know an awful lot and I can help them, and it sort of gets people coming, knocking on the door.
So do you use any specific tools to help you like manage or like take care of your posting and activity on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I do. I know I use a social media scheduling tool. I currently use Hootsuite. I'm converting over to a tool called SMD, which has been developed, released not that long ago in this country, and I was part of the development team on that. And what they've done is they've looked at all the other social media marketing tools that are out there and built one that makes the rest of them look stupid. It's very slick, and you can really put in a load of stuff into it. It's got 2,000 plus templates. It's got it's even got an element of artificial intelligence in there. It kind of knows what you do when you post it, so when you're not around, it will self-post for you. It's a really clever bit of trick. I haven't got to the bottom of how to use it properly yet, but it will replace. But I always say to people, the two things that I always go out, you need a decent headshot, so find yourself a photographer or I'll find one for you. And you've got to be consistent. So if you can't do it, schedule the stuff. Get someone, or if no one's around to do it, spend half an hour a week just scheduling some stuff. So you're out there, you're putting stuff out, even though you're not actually there at the time. So I often say to people, as I'm talking to you, in a one-to-one with a networking event, I'm probably posting about something because I scheduled it 2 weeks ago. And that really is essential. Because if you're a sole trader, you can't be everywhere all the time. And yes, there are some live social posts you can put out there, obviously, if you're an event, etc. But, I have a whole series of tweets and all that sort of thing that I put into there, and I schedule it. And it just, I make sure I have at least one or two things going out every day. And it just means that you've got a presence and you just keep. But it's so easy to be forgotten. There's 101 people vying for the space
Absolutely.
that you're.
So you use scheduling as a way to really help build your stuff on LinkedIn. You said the program is called SMD. Is that available publicly?
I will. I think it's still in the beta testing session because we've got the. We've got the Facebook and the LinkedIn API sorted out on it, but I think they were still working on Instagram. So it's not a full product, but for me, I can do all my scheduling on LinkedIn on it if I needed to. But I will wait to push that product when it's fully operational, which should be fairly soon. And for me, it just fits in with what I tell people already. I can just say to them, well, I've got this really good one that you ought to have a look at because it is a lot quicker. It's a lot more intuitive. And that's what you want. You don't want to spend 2.5 hours type up a load of stuff and scheduling it. You want to get it done fairly quickly, and then it saves it and it will regurgitate it. So it's repurposing it as well. So that's essential. Whatever you're doing, you need to be consistent at it. Networking, you need to consistently go. LinkedIn, you need to consistently be posting. Websites, you need to be consistently updating. It's all about consistency, as people expect it. And when you don't do it, they don't care. They just move on to something else.
The Hero Show will be right back.
Are you tired of trying to write webinars that don't consistently convert? How would you like to have a webinar that effortlessly created sales in your online business? You can. Introducing the Webinar Alchemy Workshop. Webinar Alchemy Workshop is an online masterclass that will help you write incredibly persuasive webinars for your online courses quickly and easily. Using what you learn in this class, you can build a webinar that educates your entire audience while still creating sales. For a limited time, you can purchase this masterclass for only $7, and you'll get the exact framework I've personally used to help my clients sell more than $1 million worth of online coaching and training just over the last year. Simply text the word alchemy, ALCHEMY, to 444999, and I'll send you all the details.
The music is by Purple Planet Music. Visit www.purple-planet.com.
And now, back to the show.
So let's talk a little bit about your own personal heroes, right? So in the hero context, Frodo had Gandalf, Luke had Obi-Wan, Robert Kiyosaki had his Rich Dad. Who were some of your heroes? Were they real-life mentors? Were they speakers or authors? Were they peers who were just a couple of years ahead of you? And how important were they to what you've accomplished so far in your business?
It's a mixture, I would say. I'm very much into authors. I do a hell of a lot of reading of business books. My favourite all time is Robert Cialdini, Persuasion, the Art of Influence, the Art of Persuasion. I'm always telling people they need to read that. Simon Sinek, again, massive fan of his. Start with the Why is again a book I always tell people they need to read. Richard Branson I have an awful lot of time for. I know he's a bit Marmite. Some people like him, some people don't. But he actually does what you should do. He is very good at the flamboyant PR side of it, but he brings in people underneath him who are far better at doing their jobs than he is. So again, the same principle I use, that I'm rubbish at marketing, I'm rubbish at doing accounts. I bring in people that are better. And that's exactly what Richard Branson does. He does all the, the front facing, but he brings the people in and he gets the best in to do that. So that, in that way, I very much look up to him. But yeah, a lot of authors, and funny because I'm in the Professional Speaking Association of Great Britain, the speakers tend to write books as well. So I've got an awful lot of contacts that have written a book, and I've got a pile of them over there I'm trying to work my way through at the moment in time. But yes, it tends to be around that area, that because those books inspire, and also the people who speak for a living and go into those meetings, they inspire me. So it probably is, Cialdini is probably the one I speak about most, because I live and die by what he says, and the methods that he uses, I just use all the time. And I get to the level now where I actually do it unconscious confidence. I don't have to think about it. I just use it.
Have you read his Persuasion book as well?
Oh, I had that on pre-order. Yes, as soon as it came out, it was straight in my. I read that a little while ago. There's probably a few I've forgotten out there, but it is. Yeah, they are, and of course, the people that I know. When Warren Casas, my mentor and my mastermind guy, massive effect on my life at the moment in time. He probably is the person that's got the biggest plus point for me at the moment in time, because everything he does and everything he gives to me, he just keeps making me go outside my comfort zone. But as soon as I do it, he rewards me with more stuff. And it's, his little black book is to die for. He's putting us through this process that I'm a speaker at the moment in time who goes out and does up to about half an hour at local networking events. I'm not getting paid at the moment in time. Working with him, I will get that over that line, that I will start getting paid to speak. I'll be going to expos and things like that and talking on the subject, which I'm very passionate about. So don't really have problems remembering what I need to say, because I live and breathe it. But he's the person that can find me those expos and find me those speaking gigs. And he just keeps giving me all the stuff that I need. I haven't got a show at the moment in time, so we're going to be doing some video work on that. Yeah, everything he knows you need to become a successful speaker, he just makes it available to you. So yeah, at the moment in time, he's very, very high up in my estimation. And he goes across to America and speaks as well. I think he's off to Australia in the near future to speak. So yeah, he gets around, and certainly when you're at the top of your game in the speaking world, you do tend to get gigs all over the world. So you do a lot of traveling. So you see a lot of airport lounges and hotel rooms.
So let's bring it home for our listeners a bit and talk about your guiding principles. So what are the top 1 or 2 principles or actions that you use regularly today that contribute to the success that you've seen and the influence you have here on LinkedIn? Ones that maybe you wish you had when you started this journey out a couple of years ago.
I don't think they've changed, because my mantra has always been to help people. The main change being that when I was involved in working for the Chamber of Commerce, there was only a certain amount I could do, and I certainly was not going to get paid for it, but I was still generous in what I gave. So helping people has always been my driving force. I probably help in the first year of my business. I was probably helping people possibly too much, in the respect that some of my pricing was a little bit awry in the early days. I suffer from imposter syndrome, which a lot of people do. And now that is gradually eroding away. And I will quite happily, with some of the prices that I'm charged, I don't have a sort of a problem with it. When in the early days it was, can I get away with that? Can I really? I don't know. But nowadays, it's the value I've been taught is in the knowledge that I know, the 10 years solid knowledge, the things that I know, the things that I can show people at events. There's a few little tricks on the app that I do which just blow people away. They're not that clever, but they haven't seen them before. So it's consistency in helping people, and then turning that help into financial gain as well, of course. But long as it's a win-win. I don't like getting involved in it when I'm the only person that wins. The other person's got to win as well.
Yeah, the win-win mentality is such a big portion of running a successful business in today's world, and really anytime. But that's it's definitely important. So, last thing we do on our show every time is something I call the Heroes Challenge. Challenge is pretty simple, and it is simply this: do you have someone that you know in your network who has a good entrepreneurial story that you think would be a good fit to come on the show and tell their story? Who are they, and why do you think they'd be a good fit for the show?
Very easy. This one. It's a chap called Anthony Stears. He's known as the telephone assassin. So he's got an interesting title behind him. He's probably half my age. He's also someone that I turn to on a regular basis for reality checks. And he literally, he says he's not a sales trainer or telephone trainer. He teaches people manners, is what he says. But he's phenomenal for a relative youngster. He's out speaking, and he does a lot of gigs in Europe. And it's all around about that fear of people who've got of picking the phone up and making calls. And he does some live workshops, and I've been on one, and it's, he'll get around and say, right, who's your number one target that you can't get hold of? And he'll ring them live and get through to them. He has all the tactics, and he has all the ways of getting around the gatekeepers, and his story is interesting, and he's an inspiration to me. And and he's one of the guys that's well known for his branding. He's got very strong branding skills but you never hear a bad word against him because he's always giving. He's great as a speaker, and the stuff he teaches you. Again, he says to me, it's not rocket science. Nothing is. We're not reinventing the wheel. We just know how to tell people how to make the wheel, and he just gives people the confidence to pick up the phone, because I know that's one area. And I was talking to a sales trainer last night. One of the big areas he has when in his sales training is that at the end of the week, which is today, he's doing a 5-day course with them that they are going to have to go live. And he said he knows damn well that is the bit that they're all, liable to ring in sick over because they don't want to face it. But the way Anthony does it, it just makes you think, oh, that's, why have I been worried about it? And just some of the little tactics he used. So he will be an absolutely great person for this, and he's full of charisma. So he's a great giving guy. He's got a nice little story behind him, and that's the person I put forward. Whether he can get off his, whether he can get off his, he works cleverly. He says to me, he does a couple of gigs a month will bring him in all he needs. So he doesn't work flat out. He just works clever. But I've never had anyone say a bad word against him. And people that have seen him out there doing it, he often sells all his books and all his material at the back of the room because people are just so enthralled with what he said. So he'd be a great one.
So we'll connect with you afterwards to see about getting him on the show. And just last bit basically is thank you so much for coming on the show, Tony. Where can people find you if they are looking for help with their LinkedIn profile? I assume they could probably find you on LinkedIn, but where else can they find you? And who's the ideal person to look for Tony if they're looking for help with that kind of stuff?
Okay. LinkedIn will be the best place to find me. I am Tony K. Silver. The K is very important. It stands for Keith, but that's irrelevant. And I learned this through a speaker friend of mine that had a pretty common name. Is if you Google Tony Silver, you will get, I think one guy was a director of films in America. You don't get just me, basically. But if you Google or put Tony K. Silver into LinkedIn, you get me. So it's easy. If you put the K in there and put a search in Google or LinkedIn, you will only find me. There's no one else out there with it. Because funny enough, Richard Matthews, I got 2 Richard Matthews already within my network.
Nice.
Yeah, as I say, I thought I thought it's not one of those two that's doing the podcast, surely. But no, they're not that sort of type of person. But so yeah, when you kindly join my network, which you obviously will be doing in the near future, you'll be my third Richard Matthews. So that's going to be fun.
Nice. Yeah, it's a common name. I know there's like a politician here in the U.S. named Richard Matthews. I beat him on Google though, so we're good.
Yeah. It's funny how just slipping that initially in the middle of it really makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Tony. Really enjoyed having you on here and talking a little bit about your story and LinkedIn and just how powerful LinkedIn can be. Because I know LinkedIn, a lot of people looked at it like, it's like the sad love child of social media, right? Not everyone uses it or gives it the respect and the power that it can have for their business and their career if they really use it properly. So it's been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Don't be scared of it. Let's just say, get someone who knows what they're talking about to possibly me, I don't know, just to run you through it. And just be consistent, same as you would tell people when you're doing their websites. Making a website in the first place is great, but you need to be consistent with getting fresh stuff out there. And it's no different on LinkedIn. You can have a fantastic profile, but if your activity levels are nil, then you won't get found.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Tony, for coming on, and we'll see you again in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.